Hey there, we're Basic Liches. We are two D&D Dungeon Masters learning to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition for the first time. In this series, we're going over every Pathfinder 2nd Edition class and giving a basic overview and impressions of how we think it plays. We go over some brief mechanics at level 1 for each class. We do a day in the life of how this class feels like to play. And then we give some Game Master tips on how to play with this class player at your table.
Let us stress that this is not a deep dive into the monk class, which is the class that we're looking at today. Also, we're not going to be covering any other options that are in the Advanced Player's Guide. We're only talking about core rulebook options in this class. We want to hit people that are new to Pathfinder like us. We want to give you a little bit of a taste, let you know, the monk is delicious. Or maybe it tastes bad to you. By the end of the video, you should have some sort of idea if the monk is the right class for you.
So when we hear the name monk, what do we think of? What kind of themes do we think of when we talk about monks?
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind.
See ya!
I absolutely love the flavor of the monk class, regardless of tabletop role-playing game that I am playing, whether it's D&D, Pathfinder, whatever. If there's a monk option, I'm into it. I am a huge lover of kung fu movies. Go and watch like Shaw Brothers or Golden Harvest, like 70s, 80s era kung fu. That is where the inspiration for the monk likely comes from. It doesn't have to necessarily have like a Chinese or an Eastern theme, but if you've ever been like, these are stupid, I don't think that a monk belongs in a fantasy role-playing game, go watch those movies. Go watch like King Boxer or the Five Deadly Venoms and see how badass these guys are. They are like supernaturally training their bodies and honing it to be an instrument of death. It's amazing. For pop culture reference, there's tons of places you could go, but I'm going to the video game system that's right behind me, that old arcade cabinet of Mortal Kombat 2. Let's go with my boy Scorpion.
Get over here!
Scorpion is badass. He's got fire magic, which could be like some sort of key spell. He has his spear weapon, which could be like a monastic weapon feat, which you can get with the monk at level 1. He's awesome. He's undead. Hey, out there, give me some comments. Let me know how you would build Scorpion in Pathfinder 2e.
I think it's great that we go to these fighting games because a lot of the characters from the fighting games have these abilities that are supernatural. They come from inner power. So we have, from Street Fighter, we have Ryu, who does his Hadouken, and Ken, the Fire Hadouken. I also think of Morpheus is a monk. Morpheus is a monk. He is a cleric. He is an oracle. I think he might be every class in Pathfinder. And it's specifically in the moment where he says to Neo, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
That is true. He is like his master, right?
Yeah.
He's like
his sensei.
Mm-hmm. His Mr. Miyagi. All right, we're going to get into the mechanics of the monk at level 1. First things first is your key stat is going to be either strength or
dexterity.
There you go.
Your key stat as in your KEY stat, not your KI stat. Your KI stat would actually be wisdom. If you were using a feat with the flourish trait, you can only use 1 flourish per round.
Flourishing came out. Next up, we have to learn about stances, which is something that the fighters have. Monks get it as well. Essentially, it's a combat strategy, combat tactic that you're going to enter and remain in for some time. You essentially can't lose the stance that you're in unless you get knocked out, you end the combat, or you violate the prerequisites or the terms of being in that stance.
Or you change stances. You can only use 1 stance feat per round. You can't do 2 different stances in the same round.
That would be ridiculous.
Wow. Pose. Pose. If you choose a feat with a key ability in there, you're going to have some key spells, which gives you some focus points to use your key abilities. The feats with key abilities, some of them can give you extra points. You can only have up to 3. and you can regain all of those points during preparation. You can also regain 1 point by focusing for 10 minutes and centering your balance again.
Next up, we get the Flurry of Blows feature, which lets you make 2 unarmed strikes using 1 action. However, when doing this, you still must take that multiple attack penalty. Essentially, this is going to be letting you have a little bit better action economy, but you're still going to be taking those negative modifiers. Every single monk in Pathfinder 2e gets Powerful Fist! Your fists are deadly weapons, so you're going to be rolling a 1d6 for your damage when using fist attacks instead of a 1d4. Also, when you're trying to make lethal attacks when punching people to death with your fists, normally there's a -2 penalty to doing that, and your Powerful Fist lets you ignore that. The time has come for us to give you a theatrical performance of a day in the life of a monk. And you're going to find out if what the monk does sounds pretty dope and cool, or if you think it sucks.
Time for a day in the life. So we wake up in the morning and we do a rising handspring every morning from the bed. And the sheets, they just come with us and we wrap them around ourselves because it's our clothing, it's our robes. We head outside to the cliffside balcony, a breezy, windy day. We sit on the edge, we meditate, and we regain all of our focus points back for the day. We walk back inside and meet up with the rest of the party. Our master, she said she's got something for us to do, a little quest for us. Our master tells us that the sacred medallion that is kept in our monastery has been stolen by a group of mischievous gremlins. They reside in the old ruins at the top of the mountain, and she wants us to go there and retrieve it. It is the way.
We arrive at the ruins at the peak of the mountain. Since we don't have a rogue in the party because we haven't covered that class yet, as monk, we're taking point. It is on us, it is our monkly duty to find and disarm any trap so that our party members do not get dismembered and maimed by them. Our method of uncovering these traps is simple. We throw our bodies at them, we trigger them, and then with our expert saving throws in fortitude, reflex, and will, we dodge them. We leap over pit traps, duck under poison darts, and backflip away from a fire-spewing statue. This place is filled with traps. So after exploring these ruins for most of the day, we finally uncover where the medallion is. In the center of this room is an unassuming altar. We stealthily walk up to the altar and we get prepared to pick it up, but something's wrong. We're going to use our perception to check to see if there's any monsters or enemies, see if there's a trap. Thankfully, we roll incredibly high on this, and we find out that there are some gremlins, some Jenkins, that are nearby hoping to attack us. Thanks to our high perception roll, we are going to avoid that surprise attack.
We're surrounded by Jenkins. One comes at us, and on our turn, we're going to use Fury of Blows to get 2 hits in with a single action. We look behind us, and the fighter looks like he's going to be in a bind. He's going to be surrounded in a bit, so we bounce to help him out. We use the aid action on our turn, and then when his turn comes around, we use our reaction to distract one of the Jenkins. Maybe we go for a fake-out punch, and then the fighter gets a +1 circumstance to the next attack.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Brawh. Jenkins are dropping left and right. We come down to one last Jenkin. We use our key spell, Key Strike. We get an additional +1 for the circumstance attack, and then we get an additional D6 positive energy damage to our Fury of Blows attack.
Oh, he did. After the bloodshed and after exploring the ruins, we head back to the monastery, victorious, medallion in hand. We give it back to our master, and she is very pleased with us. We're invited to stay and dine at the monastery and sleep for the night. As we're dozing off, getting ready for bed, we think about the events of the day. The camera slowly pans back to the medallion as it's in its natural resting place. It has a sickly purple glow. Those Jenkins cursed it, but that is an adventure for another day.
Curse you, Jenkins! What do you like about the Monk Wolf?
This is pretty similar to the fighter. I love the different stances. I love picking all of the different feats. All of that stuff is fantastic. I feel like this martial class sort of stands on its own. It's very unique from the other ones that we've covered so far. Even though I said like 2 sentences ago that it's like the fighter. Just in the fact that you have to pick all of your own feats. That's the only way that they're alike.
Yeah, it's like a primary feats class, just like the fighter. Yeah, to me it seems like the stances are almost better than the fighter stances.
There's more of them, and they're more flavorful.
And kind of more different from each other.
They're really different.
That's what I like.
Yeah, like the mountain stance is totally different from like the dragon stance, which is different from the wolf stance, and then the tiger stance.
I'm a tank and I do not move as mountain.
So cool. Yeah. Anything that you don't like about the monk? Anything that bugs you?
The thing that bugs me is kind of its pro and con is that if you like this as the type of player you are, this is a combat class. And if you're really liking roleplay, then you kind of have to dig for things. The core rulebook tells us that we have a philosophical mind and that there's nothing mechanic to back it up. We probably have to reach into other feats aside from our class to kind of fulfill those.
Or maybe your background.
Yeah. So that's what's missing for me. Again, like anathemas. Every other class has anathemas, and if a class needed it, it's this class. What kind of player do you think would like playing this?
I think that if you're a min-maxer, someone that is into theory crafting and building someone from like level 1 to 20, this is going to be your jam.
Yeah.
You're going to look at all those feats. You're going to see how the different stances sort of perfectly combine with one another, and you are going to create this devastating, amazingly powerful, OP monk that people are going to fear across Golarion.
Because once you start reading off feats, you realize that there's kind of a feat skill tree within this class.
We're going to talk about the perceived difficulty that we have with this class, how we think it is for people like us, people new to Pathfinder. That's who we talk about when we're saying X out of 5 for difficulty. For me, this is a 3 out of 5. The reason I'm at a 3 is because you kind of need to know all of the feats. You need to know how they're all connected. You could sort of make a bad build here if you're not careful. Like if you take the wolf stance at level 1 and then level 6 comes along and you don't take wolf drag, you're kind of nerfing yourself. Or at some point you got to take wolf drag. You gotta.
It's not entry-level friendly.
Pathfinder Game Masters, you're sitting at your table, you're looking at your friend Jeff, and he's decided to play a monk. What are you gonna do, Jack?
Jack's gonna have to create some social situations for our monk player. They come from a monastery, they walk a certain way of life. These things are gonna all have to be added, unfortunately. For a monk to feel at home and to have a purpose, we're gonna have to make this shit up. During combat, I would suggest that you have a large playing field. Big open areas, things to jump over, things that you would give the barbarian, but on a larger scale. Maybe do some theater of the mind, where your monk needs to kind of dash across a field, dash somewhere. Let them be fast.
Yep.
For frig's sakes, because in dungeons and the little maps that we make, monks just don't shine.
No.
Monks shine in theater of the mind. Prove me wrong.
I've always been a fan of creating new attacks, new features, new abilities that the monk can learn throughout the campaign. Find out what kind of monk that your player wants to be, like what they want to specialize in. Have them encounter other martial art masters throughout Golarion. And then if they can best them in combat, maybe they're going to get a special, unique ability that's not in the book.
Whatever key type they choose, right? Whether it be divine, right? Or occult.
Or occult, yep.
Make the opposite kind of like their opposing equal enemy.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot in kind of like the monk stories where we have that equal and opposite force.
Also, if your players made some bad choices with their feats, if they're new players, just let them respec. Don't punish them. I know there's rules for doing that. Just be like, hey, I know you're not happy. This isn't how you wanted it to go. Maybe we just pick all your feats and we do it together and we make sure that you're going to have fun playing your character. My last Game Master tip is certainly not for everybody, but I sort of mentioned Scorpion from Mortal Kombat earlier. Whenever I play a monk in any game, these guys have fatalities. They're all able to just punch people's heads off, rip people's arms off, punch it through hearts. That is what my monks can do, and that's what I encourage monks to do in all of my games, just because I think it's ridiculous. And if your player is into that, it's like, just give them that option. Be like, hey, how do you feel about like fatalities? Be like, what do you mean? Be like, well, when you describe killing somebody, you can just like punch their head off, or shatter their jaw, or tear their heart out. Tear someone's limb off and beat them with it. I don't care. They're already dead at that point. It's just fucking flavor. Go nuts. Make your monks fun.
So again, we're 5e Dungeon Masters. That's where our experience lies. So let's make those comparisons to 5e Monk. I really think that something is missing here in this Pathfinder Monk for me, where there is something shiny in the 5e Monk that has a lot of flavor. I feel like the ways of the open hand, the ways that we walk, give us so much flavor in this class, and makes it feel like a monk thematically, whereas Pathfinder 2e kind of feels more like a monk in the way of mechanics. 5e monks are kind of glass cannons in melee. They're very squishy. This, you can make a monk tank in Pathfinder mechanically and dodge literally everything. Your AC scaling is massive compared to what 5e can offer.
Monk is one of my favorite martial classes, so I had really high hopes for the Pathfinder 2e Monk class. There was a lot that I liked about it. I do like how durable you are. I like how you're like an expert in all of your saves. Pathfinder also seems to fix the core issue of the 5e Monk, and that is that resource management game that comes with your key points. In Pathfinder, it's like the other character classes that have focus spells. Here you have your key focus spells. So you gain 1 to 3 focus points, but you only need 10 minutes to get one of them back. Whereas in 5e, once you burn through them, and everything costs key in 5th edition. Yeah. So you're always running into that issue where you're like, oh, I burned out of all my key.
In 5th edition, it is a huge pool of resource, where Pathfinder, it's only 3 focus points. You know, tracking all of that, it's more difficult than Pathfinders. Some cost 2, some cost 3, some cost 1.
There's different costs for everything. I think in Pathfinder, everything is just like 1 key spell costs 1 key point, we think. To your point about the flavor, yeah, I do agree. I think that the flavors of, because you have subclasses, you have your Drunken Master, you have your Shadow Monk, you have the way of the Open Palm. They are very flavorful. But half of those classes, they fall apart. Like the Drunken Master class is absolute trash. You read that and you're like, this sucks.
I can move weird. Cool.
I have Tipsy Sway and Drunkard's Luck. Did you watch any Kung Fu movie like with Drunken Masters, that style of fighting? You probably didn't. Or you're wizards and you can't be like, I don't want people having alcohol. What's the other one that everyone hates? The Way of the Four Elements.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's not enough key points to do all the spells you have in that. Yeah. So yeah, super flavorful in 5e, but I think Pathfinder sort of has the slight edge here with the more solid mechanics.
It's funny we talk about the 5e shortcomings when it comes to subclasses, because it feels like a singular path, right? But I almost feel like that's what the monk almost should be, is a singular path. Pathfinder's trying to divide it and give you some options, and that's great. But we're missing the path that we walk, right? Subclasses would have been very welcome in this. If you'd like to join us on our Pathfinder journey, please key smash that subscribe button to Basic Liches. If you'd like to know when our new videos come out, toll the dead for notifications.
Please drop us a comment on the video below. Tell us how to make Guile and Ryu and Scorpion. Give us all your fun monk builds. We want to hear from y'all. We're about halfway done with our videos on the Pathfinder classes, but we've got the playlist for you over there for Pathfinder stuff. Cool video right here. Subscribe right. Yeah.
Later, Liches.
Bye.